girl. And who are you to tell me who to say and what to do?
You're right, Gopher. I won't tell you what to do. I won't tell you anything.
For 9 seasons, The Love Boat sold America a dream. But the people who actually lived it? They have a very different story to tell. From a firing shrouded in rumor, to a $12 million voyage that went spectacularly wrong, to a famous ship later linked to international drug smuggling. The real history of this series is stranger than any episode that ever aired. The cast has started talking, and what they're revealing is nothing like what you saw on screen. Fans actually could come aboard. Princess Cruises played a crucial role in bringing the Love Boat to life, providing the real-world setting that helped make the series feel so authentic. Although much of the show was filmed on carefully constructed Hollywood sound stages, production crews also spent time aboard the actual Pacific Princess, the cruise ship that became the face of the franchise. That connection between television and reality created a unique experience for fans. During the show's peak popularity, those willing to spend thousands of dollars on a cruise could find themselves sailing on the same ship used in the series and, in some cases, sharing the voyage with well-known guest stars. It was about as close as viewers could get to stepping into an episode of The Love Boat themselves. Robert Reed and Florence Henderson guest starred, but not as Mike and Carol Brady. One of the biggest reasons for The Love Boat's enduring popularity was its incredible lineup of guest stars. Week after week, the Pacific Princess welcomed some of the most recognizable names in entertainment, turning every voyage into a star-studded event. But among all those famous faces, one guest star stood above the rest when it came to repeat appearances. That distinction belonged to Florence Henderson, who stepped aboard the Pacific Princess an astonishing 9 different times. What made that achievement even more remarkable was that she usually played a completely new character with each appearance, allowing audiences to see her in a variety of roles throughout the series' run. One of those appearances featured a particularly memorable reunion. Robert Reed, best known for playing Florence Henderson's television husband on The Brady Bunch, also appeared in the episode. Although the 2 actors were part of separate storylines and were not portraying their famous Brady characters, the producers found a clever way to acknowledge their shared television history. The Love Boat is based on a book, which was based on reality. While many television series have drawn inspiration from books, long-running TV shows based on non-fiction works have historically been much less common. In the 1970s, most literary adaptations were turned into short miniseries rather than ongoing weekly programs. The Love Boat was one of the rare exceptions. The series traced its origins to a 1974 memoir called The Love Boats, written by Geraldine Saunders. Drawing from her real-life experiences as a cruise director, Saunders filled the book with colorful stories, memorable personalities, and the unique world of life aboard luxury cruise ships. Producer Wilford Lloyd Bohms saw potential in those stories and helped transform them into what would become a hugely successful television franchise. The ship where The Love Boat was filmed had a colorful post-cancellation life. One of the most unique aspects of The Love Boat was the way it blended television fantasy with real life. While Captain Stubing, Julie McCoy, and the rest of the crew were fictional characters, many of the people seen enjoying themselves in the background were actual cruise passengers taking real vacations. That mix of scripted storytelling and genuine cruise experiences helped give the series its distinctive charm. At the heart of the show was the Pacific Princess, the ship most closely associated with the Love Boat. For years, it served as the floating symbol of the series, carrying both television stories and real travelers across the seas. Even after the show ended, the vessel remained in service with Princess Cruises, before eventually being sold in 2002. The ship's later years were far less glamorous. plans for a major refurbishment never materialized, and the aging liner was ultimately left behind as newer vessels took its place. In 2013, the Pacific Princess embarked on its final journey, traveling to Turkey to be dismantled and recycled. What should have been the quiet end of a famous ship took a tragic turn. During the scrapping process, 2 workers lost their lives after being exposed to toxic exhaust fumes in the engine room. Lauren Tuis was fired from the Love Boat for 7 seasons. Lauren Tuis became one of the most recognizable faces on the Love Boat series. Then, in 1984, her time aboard the ship came to an unexpected end. Her character was replaced by a new cruise director, Judy McCoy, portrayed as Julie's sister. Behind the scenes, Tuis was facing serious personal struggles. Her marriage had fallen apart, and she later publicly acknowledged battling cocaine addiction. At a time when few celebrities openly discussed substance abuse, her honesty drew significant attention. According to Tuis, rather than being given time to seek treatment, she was dismissed from the show. Reports at the time offered different explanations, including salary disputes, but the full story remained the subject of debate. What is clear is that Tuis eventually overcame her addiction. By the time the Love Boat reached the end of its run, she had achieved sobriety, marking a successful personal comeback after one of the most difficult chapters of her life. How the Love Boat became a celebration of old movie stars. One of the secrets behind the Love Boat's lasting success was its storytelling formula. Like many popular television shows of the 1970s, it relied on a small group of regular characters while introducing a fresh cast of passengers in every episode. That approach kept the stories feeling new and gave viewers a reason to tune in week after week. Those passengers were rarely played by unknown actors. Instead, audiences were treated to a steady parade of familiar faces from television and film. Popular stars from contemporary hit shows regularly appeared aboard the ship, but producer Aaron Spelling also had a deeper goal in mind. Rather than focusing only on current celebrities, he made a point of inviting legendary performers from Hollywood's golden age. Many of these actors had once been among the biggest stars in the world, yet opportunities had become harder to find as the industry changed. Spelling saw the Love Boat as a chance to showcase their talents once again and introduce them to a new generation of viewers. As a result, the series became a unique bridge between old and new Hollywood, featuring everyone from beloved television personalities to Academy Award-winning screen legends. By the time the show ended, it had welcomed an extraordinary number of guest stars, with movie icon Lana Turner earning the distinction of becoming the series' 1,000th guest star. Andy Warhol was a huge fan of the Love Boat. Over the years, the Love Boat welcomed an astonishing number of celebrity guests, from television stars to Hollywood legends. Yet one of the most surprising passengers ever to board the ship was artist Andy Warhol. Warhol made his appearance during the show's 200th episode, which aired in October 1985. The milestone episode featured an impressive lineup of guest stars and centered on a storyline involving Captain Stubing's wife, Emily. In the story, Emily worries about encountering Warhol, who plays himself while cruising aboard the ship and offering to paint a portrait for a passenger. The casting choice was both unexpected and memorable. It brought together 2 very different worlds: Warhol's avant-garde artistic image and one of television's most popular mainstream series. The result was an episode that stood out from the show's long history and became one of its most celebrated installments, earning recognition years later as one of television's notable episodes. The Love Boat theme song, "It's Exciting," and new few television theme songs are as instantly recognizable as the one from The Love Boat. From its upbeat opening notes It perfectly captured the series' promise of romance, adventure, and new beginnings on the high seas. For millions of viewers, the song became just as iconic as the show itself. Behind the music were two songwriting heavyweights, Charles Fox and Paul Williams. Together, they crafted a theme that would become one of television's most enduring melodies. Ironically, neither man expected the series to last very long. At the time, the idea of a weekly show centered on a cruise ship seemed like a difficult sell. They could not have been more wrong. As the show grew into a major hit, its theme song became a cultural phenomenon in its own right. Producers chose veteran singer Jack Jones to perform it, giving the song a classic, smooth style that fit the series perfectly. Audiences embraced it so enthusiastically that a full-length version was eventually released as a single and even found success on the music charts. By the show's final season, however, television tastes were changing. In an effort to modernize the series, the original recording was replaced with a more contemporary synth-pop version performed by Dionne Warwick. Even so, it is Jones's rendition that remains most closely associated with the Love Boat and its lasting legacy. A cruise line still relies on its Love Boat connection. When the Love Boat aired its final regular episode in February 1987, the series may have left television, but its influence was far from over. In many ways, the show had become one of the most successful advertisements the cruise industry had ever seen, helping introduce millions of viewers to the idea of cruising as a dream vacation. Throughout its run, the production worked closely with Princess Cruises, filming aboard several of the company's ships, including the Sun Princess, Pacific Princess, and Island Princess. The partnership proved so successful that it continued long after the series ended. In the years that followed, Gavin MacLeod, best known as Captain Stubing, became an official spokesperson for Princess Cruises. Then, in 1997, the 6 original cast members reunited for the first time to help christen the company's new ship, the Dawn Princess. Even decades later, reminders of the show remain woven into the cruise line's identity. In 2013, Princess Cruises introduced a special feature on its Royal Princess vessel, allowing the ship's horn to play part of the famous Love Boat theme as it departed certain ports. The company has also embraced the series in more playful ways, including safety presentations inspired by the show's iconic opening sequence. For a television series that ended in the 1980s, The Love Boat continues to leave a remarkably lasting wake. The first iteration of The Love Boat had a much different cast. Today, The Love Boat is remembered as one of television's defining shows of the late 1970s, but its journey to success was far from smooth. The series would eventually run for more than 240 episodes, survive well beyond the disco era, and even return for TV movies and reunion specials. Yet, before it became a Saturday night favorite, it began as an experiment. The story started in 1976 with a made-for-TV pilot movie produced by Douglas S. Kramer. ABC initially passed on turning it into a series, but aired the film anyway. That first version looked very different from the show audiences would later embrace, featuring an almost entirely different cast and crew. A year later, a second pilot film arrived. This time, familiar pieces of the future formula were beginning to fall into place. Fred Grandy, Bernie Coppell, and Ted Lang joined the crew, helping shape the characters that would become fan favorites. Then came a third pilot, The New Love Boat, and everything finally clicked. Gavin MacLeod stepped aboard as Captain Merrill Stubing. Lauren Toos joined as cruise director Julie McCoy. And the chemistry that would define the series was finally there. After several attempts, cast changes, and plenty of fine-tuning, the ship had finally found its course, and the official television series was ready to set sail. The Love Boat's trip to China was packed with problems. In June 1983, the Love Boat embarked on one of the most ambitious productions in its history, a 14-day voyage through China, Hong Kong, and Japan to film a trio of special episodes. Shot aboard the Pearl of Scandinavia, the project carried a staggering price tag of around $12 million, making it an enormous undertaking for television at the time. Getting the production off the ground was no easy task. International tensions had created uncertainty about whether the trip would even happen. Yet once the cameras started rolling, the biggest challenges came from much closer to home. According to producer Doug Kramer, tensions among some cast members and guest stars created plenty of headaches behind the scenes. Disputes over cabin assignments became a source of friction, with several performers pushing for more luxurious accommodations during the voyage. Meanwhile, the production wasn't taking place on a private ship. Hundreds of paying passengers were along for the journey, many spending thousands of dollars for what they hoped would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Instead, their vacations were often disrupted as filming schedules repeatedly changed planned activities. The situation reached its peak during a stop in Tianjin, where some passengers found themselves staying in modest accommodations while the cast and crew occupied the city's best hotel rooms. What was meant to be a glamorous television adventure ultimately became a voyage filled with as much off-camera drama as anything viewers saw on screen. The Love Boat and its strange laugh track. By the late 1970s, laugh tracks had become a familiar part of television. Even shows that weren't traditional sitcoms often relied on canned laughter to signal the funny moments. Among the more unusual examples were 8 is Enough and The Love Boat, two successful hour-long series that embraced a technique usually reserved for half-hour comedies. What made The Love Boat especially unique was its setting. Unlike studio sitcoms filmed in front of a live audience, much of the series was shot aboard an actual cruise ship. As a result, the bursts of laughter often seemed to come from nowhere, creating a strange contrast with the show's romantic and adventure-filled stories. Still, producers believed the laugh track helped shape the viewing experience. To make it feel less distracting, they used a newer sound system that had been developed in the late 1970s, designed to blend the audience reactions more naturally into each episode. Interestingly, that experience changed completely overseas. When The Love Boat was broadcast in France, the laugh track was removed altogether. Without the background laughter guiding the tone, the series felt less like a comedy and more like a romance adventure drama, drawing comparisons to other popular shows of the era and giving international audiences a very different way to experience the same stories. The Love Boat had a hard time rebooting. After a remarkable run that included pilot films, 9 seasons, and several TV specials, The Love Boat finally sailed into the sunset in 1987. For many shows, that would have been the end of the story. But the franchise wasn't ready to stay anchored for long. A decade later, in 1998, the series returned in a new form with Love Boat: The Next Wave. Rather than retelling the original story, the show introduced a fresh crew and a new generation of passengers. Leading the voyage was Robert Urich as Captain Jim Kennedy III, joined by Phil Morris as purser Will Sanders and Joan Severance as security chief Camille Hunter. The idea was to capture the same charm that had made the original such a television favorite. Unfortunately, the magic proved difficult to recreate. While the series carried the famous name, it struggled to attract viewers and never came close to matching the popularity of its predecessor. After 2 brief seasons and disappointing ratings, the revival came to an end. Still, the story didn't stop there. By 2019, television was deep into a wave of nostalgia-driven revivals, and talk of bringing back The Love Boat began to surface once again. former cast member Jill Whelan revealed that discussions had taken place, with ideas being explored for how members of the original cast could be part of a new version of the beloved series. The unexpected truth about the cast. As one of television's biggest hits, The Love Boat attracted plenty of attention from the tabloids. Over the years, rumors frequently surfaced, claiming that the cast was plagued by backstage feuds and constant arguments over screen time and storylines. However, those stories painted a very different picture from the one described by the people who were actually there. In his memoir, Gavin MacLeod recalled one particularly dramatic tabloid report that alleged tension among the cast. He dismissed the claims completely, criticizing the publication's reliance on unnamed sources and insisting that the cast worked together professionally and got along remarkably well throughout the show's run. What makes that claim especially believable is what happened long after the cameras stopped rolling. Decades after the series ended, many of the cast members remained close friends. In 2025, Fred Grandy, Ted Lang, and Jill Whelan launched the Love Boat podcast, giving fans a chance to hear behind-the-scenes stories and reunions with former castmates and guest stars. Those reunions revealed something rare in the entertainment industry: genuine, lasting friendships. Cast members regularly spoke about the kindness and support they experienced on set, with even later additions to the show recalling how warmly they were welcomed. In an industry where many television families drift apart once production ends, the Love Boat cast appears to have remained exactly what fans always hoped they were: a family both on and off the screen. A Hollywood legend goes off script. Because The Love Boat first aired decades ago, genuine behind-the-scenes stories have become increasingly rare. Fortunately, several cast members have continued sharing memories from their time aboard television's most famous cruise ship, offering fans a glimpse into moments that never made it on screen. One particularly memorable story came from Bernie Kopell, who played the ship's lovable doctor, Adam Bricker. During a Princess Cruises celebration event, Kopell joined fellow cast members Fred Grandy, Ted Lang, and Jill Whelan for a fan Q&A session. As the conversation turned to guest stars, he recalled a humorous incident involving Hollywood legend Debbie Reynolds. According to Kopell, Reynolds had a larger-than-life presence and always seemed to command attention wherever she went. While filming one scene that featured several magicians, she reportedly decided to take matters into her own hands. After speaking privately with the band leader, she instructed Kopell to simply stand back while she handled the scene herself. What followed was a spontaneous performance that completely changed the focus of the moment. Music began playing, Reynolds launched into an energetic dance, and the magicians who had originally been part of the scene suddenly became almost irrelevant. By the time the sequence ended, with Reynolds dramatically leaping onto Kopell's shoulder, the crowd erupted in applause. Looking back, Kopell jokingly summed up the unforgettable moment as a case of Debbie Reynolds making the magicians disappear. Charlie's Angels were once on board for a crossover. By the late 1970s, Aaron Spelling had become one of television's most successful producers. The Love Boat was drawing huge audiences, but it wasn't his only hit. Just a year before the cruise ship series debuted, he had launched Charlie's Angels, another ABC phenomenon that quickly became a cultural sensation. With two of the network's biggest shows under the same producer, it was only a matter of time before someone decided to bring them together. That opportunity arrived in 1979 with a special two-part crossover event known as Love Boat Angels. On paper, the pairing seemed unusual. One series centered on romance, comedy, and vacation adventures at sea, while the other followed a team of private investigators solving dangerous cases. Yet that unlikely combination was exactly what made the event so memorable. The story followed the Angels as they boarded the Pacific Princess during a cruise to the Virgin Islands. Their mission was far from a relaxing getaway. Instead, they were tasked with tracking down stolen artwork, turning the luxury liner into the setting for another high-stakes investigation. As the mystery unfolded, the Angels handled the action while navigating the ship's bustling atmosphere. At the same time, familiar faces from the Love Boat remained part of the journey. Captain Steubing, Isaac, Doc Bricker, and Julie McCoy all appeared throughout the special, giving viewers the chance to see the beloved crew interact with some of television's most famous crime fighters. The Love Boat follows the love. American-style anthology formula. What made The Love Boat stand out from so many other television shows of its era was its unusual storytelling format. Rather than following a single plot from beginning to end, each episode unfolded through several separate stories, all taking place during the same voyage. Week after week, viewers were introduced to a fresh group of passengers, each bringing their own romantic entanglements, comedic mishaps, and personal dramas aboard the ship, while the dependable crew remained the constant thread tying everything together. Creating that structure required a different approach behind the scenes as well. Because each storyline was essentially its own self-contained tale, different writers often worked on different segments before the plots were carefully woven together into a single episode. The result was something that felt distinct from a traditional sitcom and far more connected than a sketch comedy series. The format wasn't created from scratch. Executive producer Aaron Spelling drew inspiration from ABC's earlier hit Love, American Style, adapting its anthology-style storytelling into a weekly cruise ship setting. It proved to be a smart move. Aimed primarily at adult audiences, the series blended light-hearted comedy, romance, and just enough flirtation to keep viewers invested. Every voyage offered a mix of humor, heart, and relationship drama, creating an easy-to-watch escape that audiences quickly embraced. The response was immediate. The Love Boat debuted at number 14 in the Nielsen ratings and maintained a loyal following for years, helping the series enjoy a successful run all the way to its final voyage. Only 3 actors appeared in every episode of the show. Over the course of the Love Boat's remarkable 9-year run, audiences watched countless crew members step aboard and eventually move on. Yet through all 250 episodes, 3 familiar faces remained constants on the ship: Gavin MacLeod, Bernie Coppell, and Ted Lang. Their longevity became one of the show's defining features. Week after week, season after season, they helped anchor the series as new guest stars, storylines, and characters came and went. Fred Grandy came incredibly close to matching that achievement, appearing in 246 episodes and remaining with the show from its very first voyage all the way to its final destination. But for Lang, Coppell, and MacLeod, the journey didn't end when the original series sailed off the air. Their connection to the franchise proved much stronger than that. In 1990, all 3 reunited for The Love Boat, a Valentine voyage, a television movie that brought audiences back on board once again. They later returned for special guest appearances on the spin-off series, Love Boat: The Next Wave, allowing a new generation of viewers to reconnect with some of the franchise's most beloved crew members. The Love Boat smuggles drugs. For years, the Pacific Princess had been known as a symbol of luxury, adventure, and television magic. Millions of viewers recognized it as the floating star of the Love Boat. But long after the cameras stopped rolling, the famous ship found itself at the center of a far darker story. In a surprising twist, the vessel became linked to international drug trafficking in the Mediterranean. By 1998, reports indicated that smugglers were using the once-celebrated cruise liner as part of their operations. The situation reached a dramatic turning point in November of that year when authorities discovered more than 50 pounds of heroin hidden aboard the ship. What happened next sounded more like the plot of a crime drama than a luxury vacation. Greek authorities moved quickly, impounding the vessel while it was still in the middle of a cruise. As investigators worked to unravel the case, around 600 passengers suddenly found themselves stranded, their dream getaway turning into an unexpected ordeal. The show was filmed on real boats with actual passengers. Bringing the Love Boat to life required something most television shows could only dream of: an actual cruise ship. To capture the authentic atmosphere of life at sea, the production team filmed aboard two real working cruise liners, the Pacific Princess and the Island Princess. These weren't closed sets created just for television. They were fully operating cruises, complete with paying passengers enjoying their vacations while cameras rolled around them. That unique approach gave the series a level of realism that was hard to replicate. Whenever a scene called for a lively crowd, those same passengers often stepped in as extras, adding a genuine vacation feel to the show. For many travelers, being part of the production became an unexpected highlight of their trip. At the end of filming days, extras even received raffle tickets, turning the experience into a fun bonus. Before long, cruises known for serving as filming locations became incredibly popular and would often sell out quickly. Still, shooting on a moving ship came with plenty of challenges. While the ocean scenes provided authenticity, most of the series was filmed the traditional way. Like many television productions of the era, The Love Boat relied heavily on Hollywood sound stages, where carefully designed sets recreated the ship's cabins, dining rooms, and the famous hallways audiences came to recognize so well.